This is Mark, and this is City Lights, City Streets. And this show was taped a year and a half ago. It's about the ventilation system in Nathaniel Morton Elementary School. It was the first test. There was a retest. The same conclusion, bad air because no local exhaust exists in the building. It's up to Richard O'Keefe, health inspector, to get a local exhaust in the building, according to the state health department, which is the branch of the local, which is the main office of the local health department. It's up to him. Vinny DiMacedo, Representative Vinny DiMacedo, asshole. He had the report of the bad air quality test, two of them. There's no local exhaust in the Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, and kids are getting sickened, and he raises money for a memorial hall. And this is the election year of 2002, and don't vote for him because he didn't get a local exhaust in the building, knowing of all the illnesses and problems that they were having in the
This is City Lights, City Streets, testing 1, 2. This is a test, testing 1, 2, testing. I see you're all out there. Okay, hi Flo, how are you? Go with the flow. Flo, hold on, I'll be right there. Hang in there, folks. City Lights, City Streets.
What are you videoing?
Myself.
Yourself? Yeah.
Yes. I do a local cable TV show.
You do a cable TV show?
Yeah, it goes out to 100,000 homes.
No kidding. What's the name of it?
City Lights, City Streets.
City Streets?
Lights, City Streets.
Never heard of it. You heard of it,
You
Nick?
in Plymouth and Kingston?
No.
Oh, see, it's in Plymouth and Kingston.
Oh, just in Plymouth and
Just in
Kingston?
Plymouth and Kingston.
Yeah.
We're uncovering a cover-up at a school. Teachers have chronic illnesses, and they covered it up. It's documentation, medical records. I got 100 pages of documents. I'm going to read them now.
Oh.
It's like a national story. After 2 years of doing this, we finally got a national story, folks. Hi, this is Mark, and this is City Lights, City Streets. We're in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it all began, yeah. And like I said before, if you can't tell the truth in Plymouth, Massachusetts, you can't say it anywhere, all right? We're going to talk about the Nathaniel Morton Elementary School. But first, let me just tell you how my week went, okay? This is the Old Colony Memorial. You know the paper, the local paper in town? Yeah, the Old Colony Memorial. It's a good paper, yeah. And they called me up and they wanted to do a story about this chronic illnesses that the teachers were getting. So I went in there for an interview, and I found out that the reporter was very biased. And I said, I don't want a story done. I said, if you're really a newspaper that really cares, instead of putting a 2-page article with photographs of the ocean and stuff, you should print some of the documents I have, some of the medical records of the teachers that I have, and the testimonials that I have of these teachers that complain for 5 years that they've had chronic illnesses backed up by medical reports by their doctors, which I'm going to read verbatim. No name calling here. No, not this time. Nah, you make up your own mind. And that's what I told the reporter. If they were true to their reporting public, then they should print these air quality surveys in the paper verbatim and let the people make up their own mind. They recently said in the Old Colony Memorial that everything seems to be being taken care of. Well, it's not, because me and the health official, O'Keefe, of Plymouth, Massachusetts, went in unannounced on August 23rd to see if the ventilation system was on, and the ventilation system was off. And I talked to the state health guy, Corey Holmes, who did the tests, and he says Nathaniel Morton Elementary School is the worst building of air quality in 200 buildings that he's tested. He says you need the ventilation system on all the time, on high. 8 hours a day, or else the kids are getting poison air. That's why they're fainting in the classrooms. But we'll get to that. Let me just tell you how my day went the other day, August 23rd. I wrote it down. Yeah, wrote it down. Yeah. Can I have my cigar now? No? Oh, we'll wait. Let's see. My notes, August 23rd, here they are. After making numerous complaints that things weren't being done, I called the Teachers Union President, Jane Russell, and I said, Jane Russell, you knew about this problem 3 years ago. Why weren't the parents notified that children were passing out in school? They were coming down with illnesses such as sinus problems, eye problems, excessive fatigue, sore throats, upper respiratory problems, wheezing at night, headaches, persistent coughs, memory loss, and confusion. If any of your children get these illnesses when they go back to school, there is bad air quality in the school. And ask your children how many times they went to the nurse's office, because you need to know that. They may not notify you, as it states in some of these testimonials, that the parents weren't notified when children were going into the nurse's office because they didn't want documentation that the air quality was bad. They say that they've changed some of the tiles, but we're going to get information. They should go in there with scrubbers and scrub the vents on the inside of the vents. You just don't change filters. You got to go in there and scrub the inside of the vents. We're going to get names and names of people who did the work and actual reports of what work they did do. I'm not satisfied with the maintenance man telling me, yes, we did the work. I want to see documentation. So watch your kids closely if they have any of those problems. The Mass Department State of Health phone number is for indoor quality is 1-617-624-5757. You need to call the Mass Department of State Health at 1-617-624-5757. I will be repeating this often in this 2-hour show. I will be reading the documentation, the testimonials, the medical reports verbatim, and you make up your own mind whether or not there was a cover-up. And this continues to be, like I said. Well, let me just read how my day went on August 23rd, 2000. I hand-delivered a letter about workable air vents. Ventilation systems are the most important thing in the building, the health inspector of the state, Corey Holmes, said. The ventilation system is the central nervous system of the school. Without that, you get stagnant air, dust particles, etc. in the air, and they stay in the air. Opening windows don't work because if the ventilation system is off, if there's a breeze coming in the window, sure, you're going to get some oxygen, but it's going to kick up the dust, and you're constantly going to be breathing this dust and dirt and microbes and bacteria and mold spores, which are the cause of all these illnesses, especially confusion and irritability and loss of memory, sinus problems, upper respiratory problems. And if the window is open and there's no air coming in the window, they're sitting in there still with no fresh oxygen. You need fresh oxygen. It's called a ventilation system. It just doesn't have to do with heating the building. It has to do with oxygenating the air. Let me look up that word ventilation in the dictionary and I'll read it to you. Webster's Dictionary. Ventilation. I'm going to look up the word ventilation. Oh, here it is, here. Yeah, ventilation. It says to admit fresh air in order to replace stale air. To admit fresh air into in order to replace stale air. To circulate within a room. To freshen a room. To provide with a vent or a similar means of airing. It also means to expose to public discussion or examination. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm venting my beliefs, and I'm going to be venting verbatim these reports and medical reports that they knew about for 3 years but hid it. That's my assumption. That's my opinion that they hid it. I'll tell you, I'll prove that in a moment. Also, it says ventilation is to aerate or oxygenate the blood. To ventilate is to aerate or oxygenate the blood. Carbon dioxide levels were were the highest in 200 buildings inspected by the health inspector, Corey Holmes, who did the test. He told me over the phone that that is the worst building air quality, worst bad air in 200 buildings that he had tested. Now, if you were at Jordan Hospital, and an emergency doctor said, this is the worst emergency patient I have had in 200, but that's pretty bad, right? Okay, let me read what August 23rd was all about. So I went into the health department at Plymouth, Massachusetts on August 23rd and asked if there were workable air vents, because you need those to oxygenate the air, to give your brain oxygen, and to cleanse the air of pollutants and other pathogens. Personally, Mr. O'Keefe asked me if I would like to walk through Nathaniel Morton Elementary School unannounced to see if the unit vents were on. I said, sure. So, okay. We went in the school, me and Mr. O'Keefe, and we asked to see the cafeteria to see if the unit vents were on. There were about 150 people in the building at the time, students, teachers, staff. The maintenance, we went in there and the unit vents were off. The air was so stale that me and Mr. O'Keefe, the health inspector at Plymouth, commented that, boy, we feel faint, it's so stagnant in here. The smells were terrible, the air was so polluted. And we asked the maintenance man, why weren't the unit vents on? Why wasn't the ventilation system on? And he said he was ordered to keep the ventilation system off until school day 1. So this ventilation system that cleans the air and gives fresh oxygen was shut off, and we nearly fainted. I had a headache for about 2 hours after leaving there for only 10 minutes, and there were people in the building. Now, the maintenance guy was ordered to keep the ventilation system off until the opening day of school. Why, I asked him. He said because they were doing work and creating dust. And I said to him, well, that's all the more reason you want it on, to clean the air of dust and stuff. And there was dust all over the cafeteria. So what are they going to do? Wait till day 1 to turn on the ventilation system? And then when the kids are walking through the corridor, you're going to get the same air problems? The maelstrom of pollution swirling around them, poisoning them again, giving them excessive headaches? Excessive fatigue, persistent coughs, respiratory illnesses, confusion, loss of memory, irritability. So the ventilation system wasn't off. Why was it off? Some of the rooms upstairs don't even have vents. They don't even have ventilation systems upstairs. On the 3rd floor, on one side of the building, there's, I think, about 5 or 6 rooms that don't even have ventilation systems. So you can be sure that those carbon dioxide levels, unacceptable by state standards, are going to remain high, and those children are going to get sick. So if you send your school to Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, and they're on the top floor, facing the playground, on the top floor, you make sure you ask them if they get any of these illnesses when they go back to school. Sinus problems, eye problems, the excessive fatigue, sore throats, upper respiratory problems, wheezing at night, headaches, persistent coughs, asthma, irritability, memory loss, and confusion. If your children get any of these illnesses when they go back to school, the air quality is bad, and they do not need to be in an unhealthy school. By state health code standards, a Corey Holmes, who did the test, said that the building is the worst in 200 buildings. So you get these rooms on the 3rd floor that don't have any vents. No ventilation system whatsoever, but they got a lot of windows. They got about 10 windows in these rooms, and they're about 4 foot by 8 foot. And the maintenance man says, oh, we're going to replace the windows. As Corey Holmes of the Massachusetts State Health Department stated, windows don't do any good. They're actually worse, because when you open it up, it just pushes up all the pathogens and you breathe them. You get some oxygen, but you push up the pathogens and the bacteria and stuff, and you're still going to get all these illnesses. If they're going to spend $10,000 on new windows, they need to, for half that price, they need to get a portable ventilation system in that room. And why were the ventilation systems shut off on August 23rd when there were people in the building? Kids' health is going to be at risk again. Richard O'Keefe, the health inspector, is a hero in my book. They say there are no heroes left, but he's a hero because he says, I don't care who gets mad at me. This isn't right, he says. And no kidding. I called the State Department of Education, and I talked to a man there, and I talked to him about how I went into the school and the ventilation system was off in the school. And he says, that sounds bizarre. And I said, it sure does. So the only theory that I have, I said, after studying this thing for about 80 hours, is that they're afraid to put the ventilation system on because it's going to break down or it's not going to do the job, and you're going to have the same problems. But when school starts, business as usual, it'll cover up. You need ventilation. It aerates the blood, gives oxygen to the brain. These kids weren't getting oxygen to the brain. I have letters in here stating that kids were fainting in classrooms. Doesn't that concern you? It concerns me. 52 out of the 60 teachers filled out air quality surveys that stated that they have health problems from the pollutants in the air. Ventilation systems were shut off at the school. State health code inspectors went in there and said the ventilation was shut off. You need ventilation, as according to Corey Holmes of the State Health Department. Without it, you get high levels of carbon dioxide, which is deleterious, which is bad to the health of your child. And when they're young with developing your lungs and stuff, it's even worse. They come down with asthma, and some teachers have chronic illnesses for the rest of their lives. And I got medical doctors' reports stating that, which I will read, which are all public record. You can go down to the Plymouth Health Department and talk to Susan down there, and she'll let you look at the report. The same report I'm going to read to you now. Do you want your children to be adversely affected? They knew about this for 5 years. I have documents stating that. The problem is, I don't care who's at fault, but the parents were not notified. I called Jane Russell, the head of the teachers union, and I said to her, you've known about this problem for at least 3 years by documentation. And you knew about it this year. Yes, we did. And I said, the school department knew about it, and they didn't do anything about it. Your teachers were getting chronically ill. Your students were passing out in the classrooms, and you knew about it. And you didn't notify the parents? And she says, Jane Russell, president of the teachers union, said it is up to the administration to notify the parents. Well, if the administration didn't listen to the wishes and concerns of teachers who've had chronic illnesses throughout these 3 years, and told the teachers in some cases, if you don't like it, go to another school. If the administration is not going to listen to the teachers' wishes, then what did Jane Russell, teachers union president, think that the administration was going to talk to the parents about these chronic problems in the school? Of course not. Univents off, ventilation systems off. Needed to aerate the blood with oxygen. Instead, they were being deprived of oxygen and fainting in some cases. And I said to her, why didn't you as a parent, as a teacher, notify the parents? And she says, it was the administration's problem, sir, and we were only following procedure. And I said, following procedure, in Nazi Germany they followed procedure as well. And she says, sir, that's irrelevant. And I said, since when is the safety and health and mental health of our children irrelevant? In California, which is way ahead of this time and everything, if one student gets sick by bad air, they want to know. But in Plymouth, Massachusetts, 600 students were getting sick by bad air, and they ignored the problem and covered it up. Parents weren't notified. Students passing out in class, excessive fatigue, headaches, upper respiratory problems, sinus problems, eye problems, stomach aches, memory loss. And teachers' parents weren't notified, and the teachers knew about it. The teachers are just as much as part of the problem as anyone. They should have stood up, but they didn't. And you want those people taking care of your kids for 6 hours a day, making judgments like that? Carbon dioxide poisoning and mold spores can give you confusion. Obviously, the school officials and teachers were very confused and did the wrong thing. That was my day on August 23rd, 2000. The teachers need to get up every morning, now, tomorrow morning, look in the mirror before you put your face on for the day, and ask yourself this question. If you were on a sinking boat and there was only so many lifeboats, would you put yourself on the lifeboat first, or would you put the children? Obviously, you put yourself on first and let the children go down with the sinking boat. That's exactly what you did to these children. Teachers are part of the problem. 3 years this has been going on, and you got on the lifeboats first. The Honorable Mr. Richard O'Keefe, Health Department official head, he is mad as hell, and he isn't going to take it anymore. And he's a hero in my book, and he's going into Nathaniel Morton Elementary School to make sure that ventilation system is on. And when there is no ventilation, we're going to get ventilation into that room. I was told to get the parents together along with the teachers to eradicate this dire health problem. The teachers didn't want to get on my side until I got 100 parents behind me. I talked to Jane Russell, and she says that she's gotten written notices that the work has been done. Well, we're going to get documentation, and we're going to see what actually was done. We're not going to just take a maintenance man's word for it. Yeah, the work's been done. The ventilation system wasn't on, and you need the ventilation system. It's the central nervous system of the building. Anybody without, even Mr. O'Keefe, the health inspector at Plymouth of Massachusetts, says to me, Mark, anybody with any kind of sense could go into that cafeteria and see that there was stagnant air, and we were getting dizzy because the ventilation system was shut down. Like I said, the windows do no good because you need oxygen. If the wind is coming through the window, it's pushing up the pollutants, and kids are getting poisoned with the pollutants and the dust and the particulates. Still going to have the problem. If there's no breeze, you don't get any oxygen, and you still have the stagnant pathogens in the air. They say that they don't have the money. Back a couple of months ago, like I said, they're going to replace the windows for $10,000. No, you don't need to replace the windows. You need to get a ventilation system for half the price. Because windows don't do a darn thing. According to Corey Holmes, air quality specialist at the state Massachusetts Health Department, who did the test and said that Nathaniel Morton Elementary School is the worst air quality in 200 buildings he's tested. Kids were coming down with chronic illnesses. Teachers were coming down with chronic asthma problems, sinus problems, eye irritation. Back a couple of months ago, the Farley brothers of Hollywood came to lovely Plymouth. They rented pretty much the whole town. They gave the Chamber of Commerce a giant chunk of money. The Chamber of Commerce says, we're going to take that money and beautify Brewster Gardens. Isn't Brewster Gardens beautified enough? Why should you plant more shrubs? We need portable venting systems in the schoolrooms that don't have them in Plymouth, Massachusetts, starting with Nathaniel Morton Elementary School. If you want to get the state health department in to do a test on your child's school because they're coming down with persistent coughs, asthma, upper respiratory problems, sinus problems, persistent colds, irritability, excess fatigue, memory loss, and confusion, and then sometimes fainting, then you need to contact Corey Holmes at the Air Quality Division in the State Health Department. And here's his number. His number is for them to come in there and do the test. They said all he needs is a couple of complaints and they'll go in there and do the test. And also call the Plymouth Health Department and have Richard O'Keefe put a same complaint in that we need these things tested. This is a thing that's been going on all over the country. USA Today reported on it, that 40% of the schools are sick atmosphere. Well, you don't put a kid back into a sick school. You have double sessions at a cleaner school. Clean up the school. You can call Mike Feeney or Corey Holmes at 1-617-624-5757. 1-617-624-5757. 1-617-624-5757. And request an air quality test done at the school so that your children do not get these health problems. And if they do get these health problems and are okay on the weekends, you know there's bad air in that school. They get sinus problems, eye problems, excessive fatigue, sore throats, upper respiratory problems, wheezing at night, headaches, persistent colds, asthma, irritability, memory loss, confusion. If your child is experiencing any of these illnesses, you call the state health department at 1-617-624-5757. America, your ship has come in, but it's sinking fast. In the old Colony Memorial, last week they said, Mark Lord, at City Lights, City Streets, the flamboyant Mark Lord. No, I'm not flamboyant, but I thought Liberace was flamboyant. I'm flaming and I'm buoyant. I am a Viking vessel ship on fire and I refuse to sink. If you want your school cleaned up, call 1-617-624-5757. The Mass Department of Health, Corey Holmes, told me that Nathaniel Morton Elementary School is the worst air quality in 200 institutions that he has inspected. Why? Because the ventilation system is shut off. Shut up, school officials. Turn it on. And teachers need to notify parents in other schools if kids are getting sick. Come on. Also in the Old Colony Memorial, someone called in and said I used the F word and the S word. That's right, you're damn right I used the F word. Fascists. That's who are running the school systems. They don't care if your child gets sick. All they care about is their vacation pay, their health pay. Nathaniel Elementary School is the worst air quality in 200 schools, according to scientific reports. Not just hearsay from the teachers or medical records that I have in my possession that I'm going to read. The doctors say that is definitely an environmental issue in the schools, and children and teachers were getting chronically ill because of the air quality. If you want to call that hearsay, okay, but I have scientific evidence by the state health code saying that the air quality is 2 times or 3 times as bad as 200 schools out of the 200 institutions that he has tested. So yes, I say the F word. Fascists running your schools, hiding this and covering this up. And I will be reading these documents, these medical reports, and these teachers' testimonials verbatim. You make up your own mind. I told the Old Colony Memorial, don't give your opinion. Oh, they're cleaning up the schools because some person, superintendent, or some other person says to you, oh yeah, we're doing it, and that's that, and leave it at that, and leave it to rest. Go down to the health department, Old Colony Memorial. Take copies like I got copies, and print some of the testimonials, the air quality surveys, the letters that state from teachers that they're concerned about their own health. And do the parents, quote, do the parents realize the dire health problems that their children are exposed to every day? It's in there. Print that and let the people make up their mind. Don't let some bureaucrat tell you, some fascist that tells you and orders you around. The public school system works for us. We don't work for them. Clean it up. Mr. O'Keefe is a zealot, all right. He is definitely... Hold on, I gotta fix the camera.
Oh,
I hope it's still working. If it doesn't, make up your own words. All right. So they're saying that O'Keefe, the health department inspector, is a zealot. He's a hero in my book, to have the courage and brave heart to fight for the children's human rights, for the children's health rights. So, Mr. O'Keefe, you're a hero in my book. You've renewed my faith in the human spirit. Actions speak louder than words. We can be told all sorts of things. The teachers were told that, oh, things were going to get fixed, things were going to get, they were never fixed. Teachers, yeah, right. Mr. Richard O'Keefe, health inspector for the town of Plymouth. Keep on them, man. Keep on them. And let's go to some other schools too. I'm going to be there. I'm going to go to every school in Plymouth. We're going to get the State Department, Health Department in every school in Plymouth. But we need your help, Mr. O'Keefe. And I want you. And I'm going to talk to you when this airs. I'll have already talked to you that Monday morning. You are a Socrates in my book. Yes, Mr. O'Keefe, you are a Socrates. But whatever you do, if they offer you hemlock, don't drink it. Have it sealed and put in a bottle and put on public display as a trophy for your goodness and righteousness in protecting the health and safety of the children when all others ignored the problems. I do have something to say about this Assistant Superintendent Silva of the Plymouth Public School System. I had called him on another issue, and I had told him that I was in the school and the ventilation system was off, and he said, when? I said, an hour ago. Me and Richard O'Keefe at the Public Health Department were in there, and the ventilation system was off, and we nearly fainted, and he couldn't believe it. And he hurried off the phone, and I'm sure he made some phone calls. I'm sure he's mad as hell, and I know he's a good man, that Mr. Silva, and I know he's going to do the right thing. Right, Mr. Silva? Are you going to keep on these people to make sure that the students, I know you are, man, because I could tell in your voice that you really cared. Thank you, Mr. Silva. But we're going to work on the other schools, too. I've already got Indian Brook tests coming to me from the State Health Department, and we're going to compare them with the Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, which is the worst air quality in 200 buildings. The State Health Department, Corey Holmes, had stated. People say to me, Mark, could we put that in writing? And I said he did. Look at the report. Ventilation system was off. Ventilation system in some rooms non-existent. And I said, well, could you put that it was the worst in 200 buildings? He says, sir, it's already in there. I don't have to tell him that it's the worst in 200 buildings. But you know something? I can get all the tests from all the 200 buildings, and we can make our own study comparison. Anyway, if this went into a court of law, which it should, parents should be outraged. Teachers are dragging their feet. Can't blame the teachers. They say, oh, yes, you can. Oh, because they're afraid they might lose their job. That's why there's a court system. That's... You know? Dr. Sark. Hi, how are you? Dr. Sark, the principal of the school. I have letters stating in here, which I will read verbatim, that they believe he covered it up. That the ventilation system was down. He ignored problems that were there. He told teachers to, if they don't like it, leave. But you know something? I've talked to a lot of people that know Dr. Sark. They said he's a good man. I believe that Dr. Sark is a good man. I really do believe that. Because in his office, his air quality was one of the highest in the schools. And remember what one of the illnesses and symptoms of carbon dioxide poisoning is? Loss of memory and confusion. So obviously he was confused. He wasn't making logical, rational decisions, was he? So we'll have to excuse him on that note, because he did have the worst carbon dioxide levels in his office. But remember, Corey Holmes of the State Health Department has stated that when he did the test at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, that this was the worst polluted building in 200 buildings that he's tested. Even Dr. Sark's health is being compromised. He must be confused. Keep the ventilation system on. Need a workable ventilation system. You know, this is what I'm talking about. People don't care anymore. People are being brainwashed and stuff. And maybe because of the confusion, because of the poisoning, the lack of oxygen to the brain, ventilation is aerating and oxygenating the blood. Without oxygen in the blood, you will get confused. The Reverend Osborne on TV said, I just caught a little clip of it, and he said something that really struck me funny. And here's a religious person saying this, and my wife says, well, you have to hear the whole thing in context. Well, you don't really have to hear the whole thing in context. When he said, it says, if your kids were kidnapped, and if God said, don't go after the kidnappers, he says that you should listen to God and that you should not go after the kidnappers. Now, what kind of malarkey is that? What kind of baloney is that? He says if God says that if your kids were kidnapped, that you should not go after the kidnappers and that you should listen to God. What is he, nuts? What kind of brainwashing is that? That's what I mean. You get all this ridiculousness from religious people. Okay, they make mistakes every now and then. Forgive and forget, I say that. But don't keep ignoring the problem. Keep the ventilation system on. And I'm going to be going there as a concerned parent to check on that school. And I'm going to check other schools. And I'm going to spend my spare time checking all the schools in Plymouth one by one and getting tests done. Because I'm devoted to helping the children. And Pat, if you're listening, and former favorites, Pat. Yeah, hi Pat, how are you? Doing okay? Get yourself a sandwich? You didn't burn any chicken, did you? Yeah? Burn the chicken? Did you burn the chicken that day? How was it? Good? Like I was telling you about how the teachers don't really care and how they give out, you know, they order the teachers not to say anything to parents. When the kids were getting chronically ill and fainting in the classroom and the parents weren't notified, how many times do I have to say that? At the time, Pat's former favorites right down here in Plymouth next to Wayne's Seafood there. Lady came in there, and she was buying some clothes for her kids, and we were talking about this Nathaniel Morton thing that's airing tonight and Wednesday, and she couldn't believe it. And she said that she tried to get her daughter into what's that called? Charter school, yeah. And the public school teacher told her, oh, don't do it. Because only problem kids go to charter schools. Only the stupid kids. Well, you know, you don't get a good education, she says, at the charter school. So this is what the public school teacher told her. So she put her in the charter school, and after a year in the charter school, the kid loved it. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Fire in my heart. So here's this mother that's in this consignment shop, and about the charter schools, and the teacher says, oh, you don't want your kids going to a chartered school because that's where all the problem kids are, and you're not going to get a good education. So she took her daughter out and put her in a charter school. The daughter loved the charter school. Loved her teacher, loved her classmates, didn't seem to be a problem. Got a good education. So the mother went back to the public school and asked the teacher, why did you say that? My daughter loves the school. That she loves the teachers, the students are fine, and she got a great education. And the teacher whispered to her and said, we're told to say that. We're told to say that. What is this? Communist Russia? What is this? Fascism that's going on in the schools. People are fed up with the public schools and the attitudes of the teachers. They need to get their crap together. Speaking of crap, The news media, like I said, Old Colony Memorial and all the rest of them, they don't print the real news. They give you their opinion. They'll interview a few people, and then they'll say, well, it's our opinion that the schools aren't being cleaned up and all this, you know. But do they get documentation? No, I got documentation here. I got documentation. And I'm going to read them right now. All right? But first, let me show you a cartoon I drew. It's for the Old Colony Memorial. The Old Colony Memorial, a couple of weeks ago, there's a newspaper office in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where they print all that wonderful news. Yeah, that biased, one-sided news story. You know what one reporter told me? I was showing her a scientific report. I won't mention her name because I'm sure maybe she thought before she spoke before she thought. And sometimes they write before they think too. But I was telling her about the high carbon dioxide levels and stuff. Sometimes triple in some rooms, which are hazardous to your health. By state health code standards. Unacceptable by state health code standards in the scientific report. And she says, oh, well, some people's houses probably have more carbon dioxide in their houses than that school report. No, wrong. First of all, most houses have ventilation systems that oxygenate the air. Second of all, you have one person per room or two people per room. And third of all, in the classrooms, they got 30 kids per room. And not only are those 30 kids exposed to different chemicals and dust particles daily in the stagnant air, that rooms that have ventilation weren't on, they were bringing pathogens from their feet and their clothes into the classroom. So don't tell me that irresponsible, illogical, speak before you think rhetoric. Just like Jane Russell says, well, we had a public school meeting and they gave us all this stuff and they said, oh, it's being fixed. Why was the ventilation system shut off with 150 people in the building at the time? Should be on now to clean the air, especially with all the dust particles going on there. It's absurd. It's bizarre. One Department of Education head told me on the phone, it's a bizarre. He's going to get this report, which I'm going to read to you right now. But let me show you a cartoon I did for the Old Colony Memorial. Now, the Old Colony Memorial, you know, I wonder if they can take criticism. I sent this political cartoon into them. Let's see if they print it, okay? About 2 weeks ago, they broke a sewer line in Plymouth, and all the sewer, human waste, went into the bottom half of the building. Ugh. All that crap going into the bottom half of the building at a newspaper place, right? So I did this political cartoon. Let me show it to you. I gotta come up close here. I don't know if you can see it, but we're gonna give it a shot. And let's see if we can get it here. Okay. You see that? Getting a little wind here. Here we go. I don't know if you can see that. It says the Old Colony Memorial right there is burning up, and all the sewer, and there's a honey wagon pumping crap into the building. See? And it says this little guy down here. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, "Hey, you're supposed to pump that crap out, not pump the crap in." Yeah. And it says executive editor Mark Portier on that guy. Yeah. So you're supposed to, the news media got a taste of their own medicine for once, huh? They got the sewer pumped in when they're supposed to be pumping the crap out. So that's pretty funny. And we sent that to them. And I'll see if they print it. Okay? There's so much information here. So much. So much. All right, I'm going to read the report verbatim. You ready? This report is going to the Department of Education. This report is going to the Department of Education. Let me check the sound to make sure that it's going, because this is the important stuff. All that other stuff was just hearsay, but this is the real thing. Hold on. How do you like the Mayflower? Pretty, huh? And of course, this is a test. This is a test. Testing 1, 2, testing. Oh, it seems fine. Oh, so good. So glad. How do you like the Mayflower? Pretty nice, huh? You know, the Constitution, let me just briefly say this about the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution was written on parchment paper, but it may as well have been written on the skin of the American black and the American Indian and all other oppressed groups, because Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal, but yet he had slaves. That's your history, America. It is no wonder why we have racism today, cover-ups in the schoolrooms, fascists running the schools. It's no wonder. Our Constitution is based on racism. If you want the state health department to go in to your son or daughter's school, or grandson, or granddaughter, grandparents should be outraged. Parents, for some reason, they don't care if their kids get sick. You can call the Mass Department of State Health at 1-617-624-5757 and talk to a Mr. Mike Feeney or Corey Holmes to get them in there to do an air quality test of your children's school. Make sure you investigate your child's room and make sure there's ventilation in that room. If there's no ventilation, your kids are going to come down with illnesses such as sinus problems, eye problems, excessive fatigue, sore throats, upper respiratory problems, wheezing at night, headaches, persistent colds, asthma, irritability, memory loss, and confusion. If your children are showing signs of any of these illnesses, but are fine on the weekends, there's something wrong with the school. But the main thing is check the ventilation system. If that's off, you're getting pathogens in the air, and believe me, that's not good. You're gonna end up with kids that have chronic illnesses for life, like the teachers, which I'm about to read. Call. I'm doing this for you, man. I'm doing it for all the little people. Well, I gotta read this first, okay? But you know, hang around for the report, because the report is unbelievable. I must. Listen, I'm not saying that teachers are bad. What I am saying is the public school system should be accountable. Not the parents. Parents need to take an active role. Don't be intimidated by school officials. They work for you. If they don't want you to go, if you want to inspect your child's room, they have to let you in. Don't let them turn you away, and don't let them intimidate you by sending DSS or anything like that in there. Fight for your child's health right, will you, and your mental right, because they're denying oxygen to the brain when they turn the ventilation systems off. The Corey Holmes of the State Public Health Department says that you need to keep the ventilation system on high, hello, not medium, not low, on high, all the time that the children are in school, and not just a couple of hours, Mr. O'Keefe. Well, this is another issue over here. If I have time, I'll read that, and I will eventually read that. But for now, I'm going to read the health report. These are the documents that the State Department of Education is having the legal department look at to see if this school has to be shut down and properly fixed. These people are going to have to go under oath one day. They better get their crap together. Like I said, this is going on all across the country. USA Today made a big report about it. Oh, here we go. Actual documents. Actual town documents. Not only the scientific test done by the state health department, but testimonials, medical records, and air quality surveys by the teachers and letters. Okay, you ready? Here goes. This is to Mr. Corey Holmes. Now they've known about this for 3 years, but this is dated March 5th, 2000, from an Ann D. Farmer, who was a music teacher, to a Mr. Corey Holmes. That's the guy that did the indoor air quality test. He's with the Indoor Air Quality Division, Massachusetts State Department of Health, Boston, Mass. And that number is, I should memorize this number, 1-617-624-5757. 1-617-624-5757. That seems to ring a bell. Again, public record at the Public Health Department in Plymouth, Massachusetts, that you can go down there and get these testimonies, or these medical reports, and these letters of these concerns of these teachers. And here it goes, verbatim, not my opinion. You make up your own mind. From Ann D. Farmer, music teacher, to Mr. Corey Holmes, Indoor Air Quality Division, Massachusetts State Department of Health, Boston, Massachusetts. While Nathaniel Morton Elementary School does have areas that are in need of repair, the main concern that I have is that the attitude of the building maintenance department and administration that health and safety are not a real priority. And affects their ability to make responsible decisions when incidents occur. So she's saying that the air quality is confusing them, and that's one of the side effects of lack of oxygen to the brain. Are you out there, Miss Burgess? Hi, how are you? Okay, that's one of the side effects, confusion, lack of oxygen to the brain. The carbon dioxide, even though the state health officials have deemed in their report that those levels are unacceptable. Not enough to kill you, which is the 5,000 parts per million level, but it's enough to confuse you, and that's what the report is saying, Ms. Burgess. And that's what Ann Farm is saying, that obviously it affects their ability to make responsible decisions when incidents occur. Whenever there has been any type of incident at the school, the immediate response is, there is no health problem. No effort is given to studying situations as to whether or not there is a health hazard involved. When construction or repair work is done in the school, no effort or consideration is given to avoiding health hazards. Because of this attitude, totally avoidable health hazards are created when they could Sorry, the battery died. And you know something? When kids are fainting in school, they could have went into a coma and died too. It's not a battery. It's a human being. I have records in here that stating that some students were fainting in the classroom, which is the lack of air, oxygen to the brain. Ventilation means aerating the blood. When you put carbon dioxide levels in the air, it robs the brain of oxygen, and that's how you get all those side effects. I didn't know where that battery went off, so I'm going to start here. Whenever there has been any type of incident at the school, the immediate response is, when I start from the beginning. While Nathaniel Morton Elementary School does have areas that are in need of repair, the main concern that I have is that the attitude of the building maintenance department and administration that health and safety are not a real priority, and affects their ability to make responsible decisions when incidents occur. Wherever there has been any type of incident at the school, the immediate response is, there is no health problem. No effort is given to studying situations as to whether or not there is a health hazard involved. When construction or repair work is done in the school, no effort or consideration is given to avoiding health hazards. Because of this attitude, totally avoidable health hazards are created when they could easily be avoided. I was in the construction business for a while, and believe me, dust can give you chronic health problems. Anytime you pull up a rug, do tile work, even sawdust. You know, you're supposed to seal off. When we did renovation work in a building or a house where there was occupants in the building, you sealed it off with plastic so the pathogens wouldn't go into the house. She says an example. Back to her letter, not my opinion. December school vacation, 1999. Carpet removed from second floor hallway. No damp mopping was done until after school had already been in session. Thick white dust was visible every day, Monday, January 3rd until 2000, until January 7th, 2000, when I had been forced out of school from severe asthma. The univents were probably off. The things that clean the air were off, so there was bad dust, not good. And the administration's response was there was no problem. The fact that the white dust was visible for 4 days had a devastating effect on my health and was not of a concern to them. Obviously, the children were breathing it too because they were walking those same hallways. So you put them in a maelstrom of dust pathogens. Kids were coming home with wheezing and coughing and sneezing, eye irritation, because the construction crew didn't have enough sense to block off certain parts of the school? Ridiculous. The fact that dry mopping and/or sweeping was done most of the time instead of damp mopping was not a concern. They even tell you, you damp mop dust, you vacuum dust, you don't sweep dust. It seems from the administration's response that one time they bothered to damp mop, they failed to wash the walls in the hallway. The lack of concern about the devastating effect this carelessness had on my health means that they will make exactly the same mistakes the next time they remove carpeting, instead of finding a better way to do the job. This is the same Ann Farmer letter. Numerous times over the years when there have been fumes in the hallways, whether from an oil leak in the basement or from improperly vented copy machine in the third floor teacher's room. Workroom opposite room 303, 301. The only response from administration has been to tell the teacher to keep all windows and doors closed and carry on as usual. Now, room 301, you keep the doors closed? That only makes it worse. Keeps the pathogens in there. When the state health department went into room 301, they found the ventilation system was off. So any ammonia that's coming out of that mimeograph machine, an ancient archaic dinosaur of a mimeograph machine, because some smart ass teacher thinks, well, we don't want to throw out a good old mimeograph machine even though they have photocopiers today. Instead, they pollute the air with ammonia gases, and they do not dissipate because there was no ventilation in room 301. So when the teachers closed the doors to the other schoolrooms, the stuff was the fumes were getting in there, and there was no ventilation. Poisonous ammonia gases can cause central nervous system problems. About 5 or 6 years ago, we came to school on the last day before Christmas vacation to find the building had no heat. We were told to let the children wear their coats, and if we could find a warmer spot than in our classroom, to do so. I found it in the girls' bathroom hallway, so I taught my music class there. Didn't have heat until 1:30 in the afternoon. Well, I called the state health code about no heat in a building. They say, by law, you don't have to have heat. By law, you don't have to have ventilation system. By law, you can just let the kids all go to hell and die. By law. Don't you think that's going to be changed? Call Vinny DiMacedo and Tom O'Brien, your representatives, and Teresa Murray, and tell them we need the law changed, that if there's unhealthy air that are making kids faint and having teachers have chronic illnesses, that there needs to be a law change, that this has to be fixed. And if the buildings are sick themselves, then the buildings need to be shut down and kids need to go double session at a clean building. Doesn't that make sense? Is this thing on? Ms. Farmer's letter continues. Ms. Farmer says there is also a concern that parents are never notified of any incidents of this type. If any children are medically sensitive, these parents have no idea the health hazards of their children have faced at school. Again, why weren't the parents involved? Administration problem, Jane Russell? Jane Russell, head of the teachers union, all you care about is your teachers? You don't care about the students? It's the administration, up to the administration to contact the parents about these health problems? No, it's up to the teachers. You're just part of the problem then. I've attached some of my own personal history over the past 9 years. Because the lack of responsible behavior on part of the building maintenance department, my health has been suffered serious negative consequences. My life changed forever. No one should have to pay with their health for the opportunity to earn a living. If building maintenance department would learn from their mistakes, that would be one thing. However, the building maintenance department just keeps doing the same irresponsible things time and time again. For instance, 9 years ago, they brought jackhammers into the building and did not seal off the work area. This was part of the original incident, which caused me to change from having very mild asthma to severe asthma. Now, if you're jackhammering a building as a construction person for 10 years, I know that you get poisonous dust, and you don't let that go out through the building. Come on. The administration and the building maintenance department are both very well aware of the fact of the severity of my illness and direct consequence of the irresponsible action taken at the time. Instead of being determined to never make a similar mistake again, they again bring in jackhammers into the school. This past week, March 5th, 2000, they had a work area which had not been hermetically sealed. So they did the same thing, March 5th, 2000. My workers' compensation case reached a settlement after the independent doctor for whom I had to be evaluated. They said that the school was largely responsible. No, not largely, responsible. When the Plymouth Public Schools were presented with an air quality survey done in October 1999, which of 52 of the 60 respondents said their health had been negatively impacted by conditions at Nathaniel Morton School, nothing was done. In California, they said if one child is sick, they want to know why. But 52 out of the 60 teachers responded that their health was adversely affected. And scientific proof, Mr. Silva, not just teacher hearsay letters, man. Scientific proof done by the air quality specialist at the State Health Department, Corey Holmes, has stated in his report that the ventilation system was shut off. And that is the central nervous system of the school, which gives you fresh, clean, oxygenated air. And without it, kids are going to get sick. Teachers are going to get chronic illnesses along with the students. So, Mr. Silva, that's a scientific report. Not hearsay, not a few whiny teachers. 52 of the 60 teachers' air quality reports their health has been adversely affected, backed up by scientific proof by Corey Holmes of the State Health Department Air Quality Division that Nathaniel Morton School has had the worst air problems in 200 institutions tested. Oh, I have notes on the back of these things. Hold on. August 24th. August 24th, 9:40 a.m., Thursday. I just got off the phone to a Mr. Richard O'Keefe. No, I just got off the phone to the Department of Education guy there. His name is Les Keene. And I told him that me and Richard O'Keefe made an unannounced visit to Nathaniel Morton Elementary School on August 23rd, 2000 visit at 11 a.m. and went into the cafeteria. The levels of carbon dioxide from State Health report was 989 parts per million, 189 over the state health standards for acceptable air. And me and Richard O'Keefe, health inspector, felt faint. The air was so stagnant, the ventilation system was shut off. And the maintenance department, they were ordered to keep it off, shut down because they were doing work creating dirt and dust, and said the ventilation system would be turned on opening day of school. They need to keep it on now to clean the air. That day there was 100 kids in that school. Teachers were in that building. And after 10 minutes, me and Richard O'Keefe felt faint after only 10 minutes. And that's when I called Assistant Superintendent Silva, and he was, in his voice, he really had a concern. He said, "Oh my God," he went, I said, "It's turned off," and he went, "Turned off?" And he hurried me off the phone. I could tell that he was going to call the supervisor of grounds or something or other to say, "What the heck is going on over here? Keep that ventilation system on," because Corey Holmes of the State Health Department, who did the air quality test, says that the building in Nathaniel Morton has the poorest air quality in 200 schools that he's tested it. And Corey Holmes says the ventilation system is the central nervous system of the school. It supplies fresh oxygenated air to students, along with cleaning the air of pathogens, particles, and bacteria and mold spores that can cause eye irritation, excessive fatigue, headaches, persistent coughs, persistent colds, upper respiratory problems, sinus problems, asthma, irritability, confusion, and in some cases fainting and coma. Kids did faint. I got this in the letters here. They could have went into a coma and died. Parents of America, wake up. Children, wake up. Check your schools. Demand a health quality air test in your school. And the number is 1-617-624-5757. That's the Mass Department of State Health. 1-617-624-5757. Talk to Mike Feeney or Corey Holmes and tell them you want them to be tested. Because if your son or daughter has these illnesses, you tell them that they've had these illnesses and you have a reason to believe that the ventilation system might be inoperable, shut off, or not working at all. Tell them you want them to get in there, and also call the town health department, Mr. O'Keefe, and tell him to call the state health department and get those people in there. Your schools need to be checked. It's a 40% problem all over the country, but just because that's so doesn't mean you ignore it, and it doesn't mean that you keep the schools in 6 schools. You do double sessions at a clean school. Like I said, the confusion must have clouded their brain to make rational decisions. And Mr. Richard O'Keefe, you need to go in there with testing equipment and do your own tests, like we stated that you were going to do, remember? Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe, my Socrates, my hero. And you know what Mr. O'Keefe is doing? He's doing his job, man. Yeah, he's doing his job. Does that sound unfamiliar? Someone finally stepping up and doing their job? And you know something? The naysayers and the people that are going to get mad at him at the school administrations and the teachers and stuff, whoever's going to get mad at him for whatever reason, shut the school down if they have to, they're only trying to help those same people that are against cleaning up the schools and doing the right thing. They're helping your health too, man. Yeah. Then Ian Farmer goes on to say, maintenance departments make careless mistakes, and I'm the one who pays the penalty. No, Mrs. Farmer, she says, Mrs. Farmer, if the building maintenance department does not learn from their mistakes, they are doomed to make the same mistakes over and over again. Each time the building maintenance department makes these careless mistakes, I am the one who pays the penalty. No, Miss Farmer, you are not the only one to pay the penalty. The students, remember them? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, music teacher Ann Farmer. Sing the song of health problems of the children as well. Don't be a mockingbird. We want you to be a songbird. and sing about the problems of the health teachers, not a mockingbird. As far as I'm concerned, all the teachers that didn't respond to the health problems, to the parents, kids coming home sick, excessive fatigue, irritability, memory loss, and sometimes fainting, and the teachers' parents weren't notified. To you teachers, you birds of song, you're more like cuckoo birds. Sing the song. Let us hear the bird song of the children's health problems. Then again, Miss Farmer ends her letter. Now her letter was knocking the school department, the school officials for not doing the right thing, right? And then what does she say? Instead of notifying the parents, she turns around and she says this to the administration: "Thank you for taking interest in our school. Hopefully this will be a catalyst toward improved conditions for students and staff alike, and will lead to much more positive, open and honest communication between administration, building maintenance, staff, and parents." Well, first of all, the parents weren't notified. So how can we have a better communication when we never had it before in the first place? These are her medical records now. It is my understanding that school officials, this is my opinion now, it is my understanding, I'm talking to Les Keene, department, this is the Massachusetts State Department of Education, I'm talking to Les Keene now, in a complaint that I filed. It is my understanding school officials keep the ventilation system on a couple hours a day during school sessions. Not sufficient. Teachers complain about the noise, so they turn them off. Too bad about the noise. Speak louder. The teachers are still putting articles on ventilation systems. How simple is it to put small warning signs on it that say do not put on anything on ventilation systems? Also, Richard O'Keefe has taken an active effort in the school for them to do the right thing. The ventilation system needs to be on high, not medium. High all the time that school is in session. Clean air. This is Ian Farmer's medical reports. Public record. When she gave these to the town health department, she released them for public record, for public consumption. And we're glad to consume this information. And I throw my opinion in there, but listen to what's going on. This is Allergy and Asthma Associates, 30 Tremont Street, Duxbury, Massachusetts. This is July 21st, 1997. Mr. David S. Jed, Cheval and Krem's attorney at law, 99 Summer Street, Boston, Massachusetts. I guess this is a letter from the doctors to Ann Farmer's lawyers. Dear Mr. Jed, I am writing in response to your letter of June 3rd, 1997, requesting my opinion regarding any occupational component of the respiratory medical disability suffered by your client, Ann D. Farmer. In addition, I am enclosing copies of my previous correspondence on this topic. Ann Farmer has been followed by our practice since 1990, at which time she was given the diagnosis of asthma. Allergen skin testing performed in 1990 and again in 1996 shows clear sensitivity to dust mites, mold, cockroach emanations, and cat dander. Everybody's allergic to that stuff. Jeez, especially if it's not cleaned out of the air by the ventilation system. Our current understanding of the psychophysiology of allergic asthma implies the exposure to air containing these allergens and will result in an inflammation of the lining layer of Ann's respiratory tract. This produces narrowing of the airways and spasms of the muscles surrounding the airways, both which contribute to the typical symptoms of asthma which Ann experiences. namely chest tightness, wheezing, shortness of breath, and air hunger. To the extent that Ann or any other patient with allergic asthma are exposed to air containing these allergens, she will be subject to the perpetuation and progressive aggravation of her airways inflammations with concomitant symptomatology. Well, it's pretty, it just goes on to say that it is for these reasons that I am quite convinced, this is doctor speaking now, not hearsay, not some disgruntled teacher. This is science of a doctor's scientific understanding of the health problems of a particular Ann Farmer. The doctor says there are increased symptomatology in the school environment. It is for these reasons that I am quite convinced that Ann's occupational exposure in the school environment does exacerbate her asthma and prolong the symptomatology. Well, we went into the school August 23rd, me and Richard O'Keefe, health inspector, and the ventilation system was off. That cleans out the air, all these pathogens. There was dust all over the cafeteria. They would have cleaned that stuff up, but why they keep the ventilation off? Another letter, July 21st, 1997 to, same letter, second page, Mr. David S. Jed. While we have been fortunate to keep Ann out of the hospital, this has required use of prolonged courses of oral steroids at relatively high doses. In the long run, this will be associated with potential serious toxicity, including the potential for cataracts, severe osteoporosis, hypertension, diabetes, weight gain, and skin thinning, and in the most extreme cases, adrenal gland failure. I believe it is unacceptable for an individual to sustain this type of drug-induced toxicity in order to function in a contaminated work environment. He says, I believe it is unacceptable. The doctor, John J. Costa, MD, doctor, scientist, person who knows, scientific report, not hearsay. In this regard, I have seen with my own eye, I believe it is unacceptable for an individual to sustain this type of drug-induced toxicity in order to function in a contaminated work environment. In this regard, I have seen with my own eyes photographs of water-stained ceilings and walls and mold growing on carpeting in the classrooms and hallways in the school, provided to me by Ann and her colleagues. As mold is a relevant allergen for Ann, this produces clear-cut evidence of workplace contamination. But they also don't mention that the ventilation system, when Corey Holmes of the State Health Department of the Indoor Air Quality Division, when Corey Holmes went into that school and did scientific tests and found that the air quality was unacceptable by state standards, it was because the ventilation system was shut off. When the ventilation is shut off, you don't get air into the rooms. Remember what the word ventilation means: to aerate the blood. The children were not getting oxygen to the brain, and in some cases fainting. And thank God that none of them went into a coma and died, because that's what's could have happened according to medical people that I've talked to. And Ann Burgess, not Ann Burgess, but Burgess of Miss Burgess of Old Colony Memorial. The State Department, Health Department, gave a scientific study that levels of pathogens in the air and carbon dioxide were at unacceptable levels by state standards. You can't get much clearer than that, and having Corey Holmes stating it's the worst building, 1 in 200. And for us to go in there and have the ventilation system off when that's the central nervous system of the building, and in some rooms they don't even have ventilation, they have windows. Windows don't help, remember? Opening windows does not help. It actually exasperates, makes worse for all you teachers out there that don't have your dictionary with you. Recent publication. They fixed the tiles. Sure, they fixed the tiles. They fixed the mold problems. Sure, they did that. Maybe a couple of carpets still need to be removed. But the main focus, and you can't forget it, is the ventilation system. Because if the ventilation system was working properly, these pathogens wouldn't have been in the air, and these teachers would not have gotten chronic illnesses for life. Administration knew about it by this report, and I'm going to read it. I'm continuing to read. This is the same letter by them. This is a medical letter, and this is public record. Recent publications have provided new evidence that asthma can be associated with progressive loss of lung function to the extent that Ann's asthma exacerbations have been prolonged by her required occupational exposure and need to minimize sick days in order to be at work. I believe her occupational exposure is partially responsible for any progressive disability related to the school environment. Remember I said that the ventilation system was shut off when me and Mr. O'Keefe, Health Department Inspector of Plymouth, Massachusetts, went in there, that we nearly fainted when we were in the cafeteria. There's 4 vents in there, and all of them were shut off. The whole school was shut off. They were told to keep them shut off until school day 1. Come on. I'm going to poison the kids even more. You need to call the state health people. We need to call the town. I mean, Mr. O'Keefe, I am imploring you, asking you to go forth with your recommendations, my recommendations, that we talked about getting documents that show the actual work done and not just verbal statements from a maintenance man that work was done. Pay attention. Notes on past buildings at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, March 2000, from Dorothy Belanger. I believe she's an art teacher. 3 years ago, so that would be 1997. Yeah, 1997, March 2000. Yeah. 3 years ago. This is Dorothy Belanger's letter. I became alarmed about headaches and tenderness around my eyes, foggy feeling in my head, tender open sores inside the nostrils, scratchy throat, problems with my singing voice. Did she sing to the parents about these health problems? No, Mockingbird. She says, scratchy throat, problems with my singing voice, the need to clear my throat often, shortness of breath after mild activity. That means excessive fatigue. That means carbon dioxide was affecting her brain cells. Remember what ventilation means? Aerate the blood. If no new oxygen is going to your blood, then you're going to get shortness of breath. Problems with your singing voice. Oh, Mockingbird, Mockingbird, tell me why you won't sing to the parents. That was my quote. She goes on to say in her letter, I was diagnosed by doctor. You can get all this stuff at the Plymouth Public Health Department. Ask Susan. She's a nice lady. She'll let you read the report. And if you call her in enough time, she'll have a report printed for you. All you have to pay is $18. You'll have the same thing I have here. I was diagnosed by Dr. Costa as having a severe sinus infection, asthma, and allergy to dust mites, dust, 3 types of molds, cockroach droppings, some seasonal irritants like grass and pollens. Before entering Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, I had no allergies or breathing problems. I never had headaches. I repeat, Dorothy Belanger saying to the school officials, but she didn't sing to the parents, did she? Oh, Mockingbird, why won't you sing? What are you, a Tweety bird? Afraid to sing? Afraid that the ferocious cat is going to envelope your whole body and swallow you? You must sing to the parents. You should hawk like a hawk. You should hoot like a wise owl and tell the parents, not a mockingbird. She says, Dorothy Belanger, in her letter that you can get at the health department. Before entering Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, I had no allergies or breathing problems. I never had headaches. All that could have been solved. This is my answer to that. All that could have been solved if they had the ventilation, if the ventilation system was on high when all the. But instead, when the state health department went in there, all the ventilation systems were off, and in some cases, there is no ventilation. I go on to say, Dorothy Belanger says, to whom this may concern, since that time I've been able to work relatively comfortably by letting the fresh air into my classrooms for 20 minutes per hour. Because of the dry, superheated, dusty feeling in the air, opening the window helps more than one way. Opening windows do not help. According to Corey Holmes of the State Air Quality Division, because it just pushes the pathogens in the air. You may get a little oxygen, a little relief, but it's swirling all the dust particles in the air, and actually, it's just as bad. I experience mild respiratory symptoms all the time that I am in school. If I have to stay late to work, I usually go home with a headache, puffiness in my eyes, stinging itchy eyes, and wheezy cough. I get much better away from school, during which on vacation breaks. I have talked to parents who say when their children are home on vacation breaks, their wheezing stops, their sinus problems stop, their upper respiratory problems stop. There have been many incidents in the past before the new fueling location was installed that the entire hallway near the art room filled up with fuel odors during fueling, as well as when no fueling was taking place. These odors would make my eyes burn, bring on coughing spells, and nearly churn my stomach. Even as a child, I was nauseated by fuel odors. And those children in that classroom were nauseated by fuel as well. Got dark as a cloud. Went in front of the sun. You know, a lot of people say, oh, the sun's not out today during the day. No, man. Another misconception. The sun is always out. It's the clouds that are covering the sun. And it's that type of thinking that has gotten us into this problem of teachers not telling parents. Let me make sure the lighting's all right. Well, I'll just put up with it for now. The cloud's going to pass. I hope. It's a cloudy day here in Plymouth, Massachusetts, when teachers and school administrations ignore the child's health. Even so, still, when they have scientific studies stating such that the child's health risks are at stake, scientific study test was done, not just hearsay, and the ventilation system was still off. Listen to this. This is Dorothy Belanger's letter. This had gone on 3 years ago. It says, Dorothy Belanger's letter, our teacher, we also suffered through natural gas odors in the hallway nearby. One time when the music room was located in room 13, I complained of the gas odor in the hallway. No one was able to detect the leak where I said it was coming from. The testing device used could not pick it up. When the gas company brought in a more powerful tester, the leak was exactly where I told them where it was. You see, without any ventilation, this is my opinion too. No, Corey Holmes' opinion. Yeah, state health code. People. He says, if there's no ventilation in the system, the gas smell will remain in the building. It won't be filtered out. It'll dissipate, but in essence, the atoms and the molecules are still there and will still pollute your body. Dorothy Belanger goes on to say, we have had many times when we smelled a greasy, oily odor in the hall and were told that we were smelling a downdraft from the vent pipe. What difference does that make? It's still polluted, right? Also, located outside the window of room 13. We were told to close all windows for a while. This made the air hard to breathe, and sometimes we vacated the space because of the intensity of the odor. Now, school officials are telling teachers to close rooms that have polluted air in it, stagnant air. cancerous air from oil. Oil is cancerous, the fumes, okay? And if you want me to find that out and prove it to you, I can, just by calling up the gas company and asking them to send me a form. Oil is cancerous substance, and the administration told them to close the windows. Obviously, they were confused. Keep the pathogens in there with stagnant air, with ventilation closed. No wonder why kids are passing out in the schoolrooms. But we see the light here in Plymouth, Mass. The sun shines on all evil and all good. It is up to us to be the shining light and shine light on these corrupt people that hid this thing for whatever reason, confusion. For now, I think we'll have to go with that, because no logical person, no doctor, no nurse, no caring person about students' health would keep this swept under the rug, students' health problems, unless they were confused. I can't believe that they were that irrational and that illogical and that uncaring. It had to be the confusion. And that's one of the symptoms you get when you have lack of oxygen to the brain and the ventilation system to aerate the building is shut off. Is this thing on? Right, Chris? When the music room was relocated to room 101, I would visit Miss Farmer often, but always had a strange reaction when entering the room. Immediately upon entering the room, I would feel a strange constriction in my nostrils. It was especially noticed near an old antiquated science lab table, a relic from the years before 1963, when the building was in my high school. When the building was my high school. Miss Farmer has incidents of children fainting and falling ill while in her room. Miss Farmer, quote, Dorothy Belanger, quote, Miss Farmer has incidents of children fainting and falling ill in her room. I was told by some parents that in Miss Farmer's room that they almost fainted as well. Children's parents have told me that they have almost fainted in Miss Farmer's room as well, and in other rooms in the school. Quote, Miss Farmer, this is a quote from Dorothy Belanger. Quote, Miss Farmer has incidents of children fainting and falling ill while in her room. After reporting my concerns, stating that I believe that some kind of chemical residue or gas type leak was causing it, the table was examined closely. It was determined that the side of the old gas connection, which had been shut off, still had some type of residue in a pipe located inside the cabinet under the table. She goes on to say, many times in the spring and in the winter, I've detected the smell of gasoline in the hallway near my room. After complaining, it was discovered that the custodian had to use the lawnmower or snowblower. Oh, the darkness of it all. We will soon bring it to light. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Although they didn't admit it, I believe they fueled those machines in the custodian room, which is located opposite room 13. When you fuel machines, when you fuel machines inside a building that has stagnant air, the fumes stay in the air. If you don't have ventilation to ventilate all that poisonous air out, and gasoline fumes cause kidney failure, heart problems, cancer, lung cancer. The same custodian area, room number 12, is the carpenter's shop for the school maintenance carpenter. He often builds and repairs things. When he does, we can all hear his table saw, smell the wood sawdust smells, the stain and seal of paint he applies. We can smell that, and that stays in the rooms in the hallways. It seems that all maintenance work is done during the day when children are in the building. So you're getting polyethylene and fumes from stains and sealer coats in the building without ventilation. So the kids are breathing toxic, cancerous substances because the ventilation system was off. Is this microphone on? I believe it was 2 years ago. That would be 1998. Yeah, 1998. I believe it was 2 years ago when some white particles were found by a substitute custodian on the carpet near a large pipe in room number 13, which is now a kindergarten. We had witnessed this before and told that it was no health hazard. When this substitute custodian saw it, he immediately reported it as possibly asbestos. The room was quickly sealed off during the next day, and signs were placed on the doors prohibiting anyone from entering. Men in protective clothing arrived and worked in the room for 2 days, cleaning and examining the residue. Men in protective clothing arrived and worked in the room for 2 days, cleaning and examining the residue. Well, at least they did something about that. When I attempted to photograph the sign which hung on the door telling everyone to stay out, I was told to get rid of the photos. Cover up. I was told to get rid of the photos. Cover up. Goes on to say, Ms. Turr, the teacher in that room, asked for a report of the findings. She asked for the report of the findings. She was told that she would get a report when it arrived. To date, no report has been seen. Cover up. So there was asbestos leaking into the schoolroom, allegedly, and there was no report, no documentation. Cover up. Do we want officials to cover up this stuff? We want to know the truth, America. We're going to contact other people in other schools in the internet, and we're going to get the schools in America cleaned up. We're going to start with Plymouth with the help of the health official, Mr. O'Keefe, hero, Socrates. Dorothy Belanger's notes go on, her letter goes on. We have been, boy, she's singing like a mockingbird, but she is not singing and like a cuckoo bird, that's my opinion. But did she sing to the parents? Did she hawk out her concerns to us? Was she a wise teacher, as a wise owl, and tell the parents, no? This is her letter goes on, Dorothy Belanger. We have been trying to get an old carpet, which is 13 years old, out of the hallways and common areas, and out from underwater fountains and sinks for years. When parents on the Building Improvement Committee made an issue of the mold growing in carpets under water sources, the maintenance department removed the carpet under fountains and sinks. We still needed the carpets removed throughout the building. After many broken promises to do it in the summer, never to happen, we finally had a portion of it now removed and replaced with vinyl during Christmas '99 vacation. When we arrived back in school in January, we found the hallway going past the music room. 21 had been done. Upon entering, we all noticed a white chalky dust on the surface. It smelled dusty. This chalky dust tracked on the shoes and was very noticeable on the section of old brown carpeting near the office. The dust was in the air also and was disturbed often during the day because of the main hall to the office and to and from lunch and at entrance and exit because of all the little and big feet stepping on it. The dust was stirred up constantly. I noticed a tickle in my throat and itchy eyes when I was in the hall. I believe that since the surface was dull and dusty, the floor was not sealed properly before school began. On Friday of that week, 5 days after we returned, the first layer of wax was evidently placed on the vinyl. However, for those super sensitive individuals, it was too late. If the ventilation system was on, you wouldn't have got all those problems. So the kids were breathing poisonous air from construction material. When the state health department went in there, they noticed the ventilation system was off. When we went there August 23rd, me and the health inspector of Plymouth, Massachusetts, O'Keefe, the ventilation system was off. There was 150 people in the building. Turn the damn ventilation systems on. On for the entire time the schools are in there. I hope I can get to all this. There's an awful lot here. It is my theory, since the ventilation system is off, when we went there, August 23rd, 2000, and when the state health officials went there, the ventilation system was off. You need ventilation. Ventilation means to aerate the blood. You need the ventilation system to put oxygen in the air and to clean the dust particles. To ventilate also means to air your grievances, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm ventilating. I am ventilating about the ventilation system, or the lack of the ventilation system. Kids should not be allowed to be in rooms with ventilation systems that don't exist, that are not even there. Come on, America. Replacing windows for $10,000 when it doesn't do a darn thing. You need ventilation for half the price. Get real. Or is the carbon dioxide still affecting your brain? Well, if the ventilation system is off, obviously it is. Patricia Cameron. Why didn't Patricia Cameron alert the parents to this dire health issue where kids were getting sick and going into and fainting in the classrooms? This is Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, to Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, to Mr. Holmes of the State Health Department, and this is from Patricia Cameron. I am writing about concern I have for the health and safety of the staff at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School. This is dated March 1st, 2000. I have been a staff member at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School for the past 12 years. During this time, I was located in room 24 for the first 3 years. I have been in room 11 for the past 9 years. Since coming to Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, I have had numerous sinus infections. I had sinus surgery in April of 1996. Surgery. During the past 4 years, I have gradually been having more sinus problems. My doctor did allergy testing, and dust is one of my main problems. In room 11, has had problems with odors related to fuel oil. These odors occurred when oil was delivered when we had an old oil tank in the basement. Since a new boiler heating system was installed in the fall of 1998, room 11 has had fuel odors on many occasions. I had to leave my room on 2 of these occasions because the fumes were so strong. I was worried for myself, but mainly for the children in my care. Now, the school officials knew about this oil problem in the classroom, and the ventilation system was shut off. The air quality remained poisonous. And Corey Holmes of the State Health Department said, if there's no ventilation in a room, those fumes remain stagnant in the air and you're breathing poison air. And oil fumes can cause cancer, kidney failure, along with the carbon dioxide poisoning, which is no oxygen getting to the brain, can cause fainting, headaches, and coma and death. And in some classes, children were fainting. Do you remember that a teacher said that? And the parents weren't notified. Because of the ventilation system was shut off. Mold has also been a problem in 11. The carpet had a large amount of mold. If the ventilation system, now I'm saying this, if the ventilation system was on, a lot of that mold spores would have been filtered out. Again, they could care less about the damn students. Actual report. Get it at the town public health. There are many to whom it may concern, this is Nancy Seeley, to whom it may concern, there are many environmental issues at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School about which I am concerned. The amount of general dust and dirt in the building, except for the chalk dust in the building. Have rugs all been checked for mold? I appreciate that the custodial work is done. They haven't done anything. They turned the ventilation system off. Janet DePace, the teacher, has these schools and saying that she's had chronic health problems. She can hardly even work. She's the librarian. She was told, I guess, the rug in the library is going to remain. Well, but Mr. O'Keefe, right? We're going to get it removed for her, right? Especially when they don't turn on the ventilation system. Mr. O'Keefe, you're right across from the school. Can you check, please, for us, hero of mine? I know you will. I know you'll walk across. It'll take 5 minutes a day of unannounced visits. You don't need a guide. Walk right in there. Show them who's boss. Will you, Mr. O'Keefe? I know you'll do that for us. Once a day, 5 minutes. Make it your daily exercise to walk into the cafeteria to make sure the ventilation system is on so that the kids get fresh, clean air. Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe. Hero. Socrates. Don't drink that hemlock. "25-year veteran. 25-year veteran of the school department, works there, Waterhouse. Worked in the building for 25 years. He also writes a letter of concern. He says he believes people the problem is because of budget cuts. No, the problem isn't budget cuts. The problem is an uncaring faculty not talking to the parents about this so that we can get something done about it. Today the rooms are not clean, he says. Trash is empty, floors are swept but not clean. You don't sweep dusty floors, you vacuum them. That's OSHA requirement. He says that the problem suffers from bad heat problems. He says teachers are missing work due to respiratory problems. And record number of kids were getting sick. I got news for you. Record number of kids were getting sick. Not because of flu viruses and stuff, because of the bad air quality. If you don't have ventilation system, a ventilation system also the ventilation system also filters out bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens out of the air. So if your kids were getting persistent colds, that's because the ventilation system wasn't on, or was on only a part of the time. Says he's concerned about his students. Mr. Waterhouse, if you're concerned about your students, report any future problems, please, to me or anyone else out there, to the media. We need to know this. All you teachers at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, listen to me. You're going to continue to have health problems if the ventilation system is not allowed to run all the time that you're in school. Did you hear that? The ventilation system must be allowed to run on high all the while you are in school, or you are going to have continued problems. Corey Holmes, state health official, said that, who did the air quality test and said Nathaniel Morton is the worst in 200 schools. He said that in order for you to get clean air, not me. Uh, 1998, Janet Tapesa. She talks in a letter to Dr. Sark how she has all health problems, and she says and the students are being affected as well. Parents weren't notified. Students passing out in class. Parents not notified. Kids having excessive fatigue, going to nurses' offices. Parents not notified. Going in record numbers. We need to aerate the brains of these officials, because if they're confused by these symptoms, they need to be censored or fired. I'm sorry. They have to be. Now I'm going to read the surveys, the air quality surveys that the teachers took in 1998, October of 1998. They took these surveys. 52 out of the 60 teachers who took this survey had adverse reactions to this room. And the scientific, Mr. Silva, are you listening? It's not just the teachers. And the scientific tests back up these claims. Scientific tests back up these claims. In an effort to learn if our members are being affected negatively by our air quality conditions in the workplace, we are asking them to fill out these surveys, who will return it to Jane Russell, okay? These surveys returned to Jane Russell, so she all knew about it. So she was a mockingbird. She didn't sing to the parents. She just sang to the health officials, and it was a mockingbird at that. No hawk in the air, no wise owl hooting the truth to the parents, but still they allow the kids to get sick in record numbers and faint in the classroom? Come on, America. School, Nathaniel Morton. Name optional, Susan Winokur. Have you noticed air qualities in your room? Yes. Would your doctor provide a written statement saying that your health problems are from the school? Yes. What types of problems have you experienced? Upper respiratory, excessive fatigue, sore throats. Why? Ventilation system shut off. Right in the scientific report. Susan Winokur also writes this: first experienced upper respiratory problems after teaching at PCIS for several years. Prior to teaching at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School, this enclosed environment, I have had, wait a minute now. First experienced upper respiratory problems after teaching at PCIS for several years. Prior to teaching in this enclosed environment, I had no upper respiratory problems. Persistent sore throats and frequent laryngitis, as well as excessive fatigue, began to overwhelm me. A lot of students to me have said they had excessive fatigue and all these other things too. Okay. I was barely able to function in school and had to give up most of my responsibilities at home. I was no longer able to take care of my house on my own. I finally went to see Peter Ambrose, who is an eye, nose, throat specialist in Quincy, and he diagnosed my problem as sick building syndrome. He ruled out regular allergies and said I had become super sensitive to the air quality in my building. He prescribed 2 medications. I have a chronic problem for life. Another doctor, Mr. Silva. Scientific proof, not just teacher's hearsay. A professional doctor saying it was air quality. Air survey quality continues. There was lack of documentation that children were going in record numbers to the nurse and parents weren't notified. And it says that in here also, allegations. Are they true? I don't know. Let's get him in a court of law and ask him under oath. You really think that we should let these people get away with it if there was a cover-up? Come on, people! So that they can go to another town and continue to cover up your child's health and mental health welfare? Kathy Anderson took this test, this air quality survey test, who was going to Jane Russell's office. And this was done in 1998, October 30th, backed up by a scientific report by the state health agency. Kathy Anderson says, what type of health problems do you have? Sinus problems, excessive fatigue, sore throats, upper respiratory problems, headache problems on the sinuses, and other problems she explains below. She's got allergy shots, mold, mildew, cockroach, tree allergies. The leaking roof ceiling above my head must be reading zone. Above her head must be above reading zone for mold and mildew. She also writes an allegation, which I think, like I said, get these people in the court of law and let's ask them under oath. Does the nurse keep records? Does Nurse Reardon keep records of how many students we send down to her dizzy and with headaches? She says, I don't know. This started when I was at South Elementary. I never had problems until then. We're going to get somebody into South Elementary, right, Richard O'Keefe? You're going to do that, right? As soon as you hear this broadcast, you're going to go to the phone, call up the State Health Department, Air Quality Division, talk to Mr. Feeney, and tell them that you want a test done at the South Elementary School. Same test, okay? I know you'll do that. Thank you. Another air quality survey test done in 1998, October 30th, and it's to be returned to Jane Russell's office. Ramona Almeida. What problems did you report? Water spots on ceiling and hall, powder on wall. What was the response from the administration? I was told the water spots were paint. She said, I was told the water spots were paint. Cover up, right? The water spots were paint. ignoring the problem. Would your doctor provide a written statement that your health problems are environmental from the school? Yes, she says. What problems did you have? Ramona Rameda. Sinus problems, eye problems, excessive fatigue, sore throats, laryngitis, upper respiratory problems, headaches, persistent colds. Last year, which would be 1997, last year I was sick for several days after talking with my peers who had similar problems. I was encouraged to see an allergist. I did see an allergist. Her air quality survey clearly states she had problems. And all these sinus, eye problems, excessive fatigue and stuff are symptoms and illnesses that you get when you don't have ventilation in a building. To clean the air of pathogens and give you fresh oxygen. Excessive fatigue was from the carbon dioxide poisoning and the lack of oxygen getting into your blood. What was, shall I just repeat this? What problems did you report? Water spots on ceiling, powder on wall. What was your response from the administration? I was told that the water spots were paint. You calling this, is this a cover-up? Air quality survey, what school? Nathaniel Morton. From who? Dorothy Belanger. Have you noticed any problems with the air quality in your room? Yes. Have you filed air quality or HVAC forms concerning air quality? Yes, in the past, before Dr. Sock's new maintenance form. What problem did you report? Air quality in your boys' room. Also refueling odor. Do you have copies of this report? Yes, but not all. Deal with air quality. What was the response? Response was, we were told to close windows. What would your doctor provide a written statement? That your health problems are environmental? Yes, he would. My problems return when I return to school. What types of health problems have you experienced? Sinus, recurring infections, swelling in the nose, sores in the nose, eye problems, itchy, excessive fatigue, sore throats, scratchy and coughing, upper respiratory problems. I have now developed asthma, breathing problems, sinus infections, headaches, others, she says, allergies. This is Dorothy Belanger, 2 years ago. And a state health test back it up scientifically. Not just hearsay, Mr. Silva. I know you'll do the right thing, Mr. Silva, Superintendent of Schools. Get the ventilation system working and keep it on, for God's sakes. Dorothy Belanger continues. I'm out here in public because I want people to know. My room has, she goes on to say, my room has been very hot, dry, and dusty in the past with the old boiler system. I assume it will be in the same when the new system finally works. I have verbally informed the office on several occasions about the odor in my room from the fueling of our oil tank, which was located below in the basement. I have found and verbally reported natural gas leaks in the hallway near my room as well. Presently, even unheated, my room often smells of sewer gas, which I am told comes from the sink drains in my room. Yeah, well, if you don't use the sinks, there's 4 of them. If you don't use the sinks in the sewer drains, yes, you are gonna get sewer gases up there. There was an issue with using the HVAC form, which prompted Dr. Sock to create, with the Building Improvement Committee, a new maintenance form.